Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Arif Halaby. That's where you're going to learn. I hope you're going to learn something today. Our goal is to kind of keep you out of debt, manage your money, plan for your future. And listen, a lot of times it's about making the right decisions at the right time and knowing when you're done, right? You know, we have to figure out a couple of things. One of those is when you're done running the race. You know, Jeff, we've talked about this before. I try to think of myself as somebody who's creative enough to think of a quick analogy or a metaphor or a story that can help you sit down and go over the pieces of your life, financially speaking, and come up with a plan where the plan says, and it's not a financial plan like some of these folks think of a traditional financial plan.
Right.
74 pages with pie charts, graphs, and then 15 pages of the 75 are disclaimers of don't let this happen to you on a Thursday. Unless, of course, it's a leap year. Right?
Right.
You ever see those, the disclaimer? And they know, listen, do you understand this? When you get those things in the mail from your retirement company, your financial company, your 401k plan, they know you don't understand this. I mean, I don't want you to think that you're the only one in the neighborhood that has no clue or that just nods, and then when nobody's looking, you just throw it in a pile. And you say, I'll get back to that later. Now, I share that with you because I want you to realize you want a very simple, basic plan because anything else is really generally that I've found in the favor of the financial companies. It's in the favor of Wall Street.
Sure.
You know, the market can be up, it can be down, people can make lots of money. Those are all amazing things. What's incredible to me is when the, what do they call it, the forever hate Trump media. Listen, there's a lot of things you can say about him that's not positive. You know, listen, I'm
Sure.
the first to say, I wish he was a bit more eloquent, a little bit more diligent in the review process of the tweets. I'm okay with a lot of that. But if you are somebody who goes down the road where all you do is say the negative and you pick on and negative, after a while, do you realize that you lose credibility? So even when there really is a fire, or really when there really is, you know, a wolf, the boy who cries wolf.
That's right.
Then nobody's going to believe you because you've lost credibility. And yet today, they are so many of them that hated him and what he stood for and all the other things are purposely having to report on CNBC today. There are more jobs than people out of work. Something the American economy has never experienced before. Now, CNBC, do you understand NBC? It's part of MS, Microsoft. And NBC merged, created an online cable channel years ago called MSNBC. NBC in general and CNBC, they're all part of the same network as well as others. The Hispanic channels, I think it's Telemundo and a bunch of Univision, a lot of those are all part of the same NBC family. So it's not uncommon when you hear one of them say something negative, right? That's what they're going to say. And I'm okay with that as long as you know what it is. You know, in Europe, when you travel there, the media never pretends to be objective. They don't have a media that's objective. They have, this newspaper is put out by the right wing. This newspaper is put out by the left wing. The Conservative Party, the Liberal Party. That's what they have because that's what they expect. I want you to know this. We're going to get into the financial stuff in a second because I think what's very important is you have to realize that the financial data that's out there is the same as long as you understand how it applies to you. Who cares if there's a mine shaft collapse in Venezuela or economic turmoil in the Philippines or the North, right? Those things can and do apply to you in some form or fashion. But the media put out something recently when the stock market was hitting all-time highs, and they all came to the table and they said, well, only 50% of Americans have their money in the stock market anyway. Now, why do we think that's silly? Jeff, we know that. What do you see as a number? Like, why 50%? Do you think they don't have pension plans?
Right. I think it's actually it's a skewed number. It's an arbitrary number that they took out of somewhere. I mean, and all you have to do is really consider the source. What do they want you to believe? If you can figure that part out, then you'll know why they have the data either favor their position or be out of favor of somebody else's. So I go back to what I was told when I was a kid, consider the source. When I used to be really offended or mad about something and somebody told me something, just consider the source. What were they trying to achieve by telling me what they told me? And a lot of times you're going to find that that's across, the political spectrum, financial spectrum, whatever the news wants you to hear, that's what they're going to publish.
Always look to see if the race that you're running is over. For many people, you are running somebody else's race.
Yeah.
Here's a good example. You look at your neighbor across the street, your brother-in-law, your sister, and you say, hey, you need to have this much money saved before you can retire. Or you need to have your house paid off before you could retire, because that's what they're saying and that's what you think you need. But maybe the answer for you is guaranteed income stream. So if I said you have $2,000 a month in income, but your house is paid off and your car is paid off, or I said you had $10,000 a month in income, but you will always have a house payment and always have a car payment, which one is better if you get to choose one? Now, some of you are so ingrained that debt is bad no matter what it is, that you think that being debt-free and making $2,000 a month is a good thing. Well, maybe, but do you understand your car gets old? It needs new tires. You'll have to replace it eventually. Do you also understand that eventually you're going to have property taxes, and they don't go down, folks, especially here in California. They haven't figured out how to manage a budget yet. So when you have a debt-free scenario, that's nice, but you can't peel off a piece of drywall to go to the grocery store. It just doesn't happen. You're going to have to create income streams, in my opinion. That's what creates a lifestyle. That's what creates flexibility and opportunities. Most other parts of the country, Jeff, you could buy a house. We have a recent client who moved to the Midwest, Mississippi. 3,000 square foot house, 4 bedroom, 4 bath, on a half-acre lot in the upper scale part of town, right, in Clinton.
Yeah.
What is it? Oh, very straightforward. It's $249,000.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, it may not be a brand new house, but do you realize that once you've paid that off, the property taxes there are less than half here? Oh, but then you have to live there. Oh, yeah. Have you not seen the traffic around California? Some of you are voting today. If you're not upset at the same political party that's chasing you out of a state that you were born, you've heard me say before, it used to be that when you were saving for retirement, when you were building your life, one day you were going to go to California. That's what my parents did. They came from Michigan. My dad from the Middle East went to West Africa. He was there for 10 years and then came to Michigan. And then Michigan, their goal was to get to California. Even when my dad was in Lebanon as a boy, it was the dream to come to California. He didn't know how he was going to do it. He was in the villages of Lebanon, up in the mountains. But if he wanted an opportunity in the 40s and the 30s and the 50s, it was to come here to the United States. Today, when people retire, they take their $1 million, their sale of their house, whatever it is, and they leave. So think of that when you're voting for the incumbents, statewide we're talking, especially of the political party that's in power. These aren't people that realize the same thing that you and I realize, which is we need to plan for retirement. What is that goal? What is the plan? It's simple. Here's some reasons that you need to that you can look at and say, am I on track to finish the race? So Jeff, one of the things that we look at on a regular basis is we need to look at the overall portfolio, because all of us have a portfolio. All of us have a something, right? It might be your savings account. That's the beginning of your portfolio. It might be the money in your mattress. You can start with something.
That's right. And what we look at when we say our portfolio overall is the money, just like Arif's saying, whether it's in your savings account, your retirement account at work, individual retirement accounts, maybe you have investment accounts and some interest in a business or a rental property. This makes up basically your net worth, so to speak, and it's going to be the thing that is going to replace your income, obviously. But what we want to look at is where those dollars come from. You can look at some of the other layers of, how do they come to you? Are they tax favored? Are they tax free? Are they taxable? That's always a good conversation to have. But your overall savings, your wealth is what's going to drive your lifestyle in retirement. And I think people get hung up on some of the maybe the sources, the way that things are taxed, where they're sitting, but really the overall picture and the accumulation factor is to look at what were you able to save over your working life.
That's really the dictation that most people forget to communicate to their spouse. And who was it? Warren Buffett, I think we've talked about this recently, where he said the biggest decision you can make to financially decide your life, number one, is your spouse.
Right.
That's the decision. That's the first decision. Not buy this stock or look at this company or any kind of formula that has the stock market involved. Warren Buffett says one thing. He says, your wealth is determined, number one, by the spouse that you choose. And then number two, by the career that you've chosen, and number three, by the habits. When you understand those three things have nothing to do with picking the right industry or stock or anything where you don't have an opportunity to make that choice, then realize something. Those are in your power, right? Your spouse, that's in your power to control. It's in your power to control who you decide to call friend. Right? I'm not saying people that make mistakes, right? You're going to make financial mistakes. We had a gentleman in our office earlier today. He says, I wish I would have known you 20 years ago. The man is in his 80s. He was offered an early buyout. He could take the pension, or he took the cash lump sum. He mismanaged, right? Because his financial guy said, take some risk. So 20 years ago he did, and he lost it in the 2000 collapse. Gone. Because the financial guy invested for a 60-year-old as if it was his portfolio, meaning the man was in his 30s, the financial advisor. He put the client's money in tech stocks. The client said he lost everything. I don't know how much everything was or what he spent, but
wow.
He said it's all gone. So here he was 15 years later, and his complete portfolio is gone, down to zero. And the only reason he can retire now is because his wife still works and he has a little Social Security, but his pension is gone. Because the aggressive nature of the advisor was transferred to you, the client. That's a very dangerous thing to do. Now, when they are right, oh, look at that. Everybody's a star. He's so smart. We're the smartest guy I know. Beautiful. But when you're wrong.
You're really wrong.
And the advisor says sorry and goes on to the next client. And you're now stuck with the lifetime of money that is gone. All because they said buy pork bellies or,
right.
Brazilian agriculture. You've heard us talk about that.
Right. And you have somebody in their 30s and bless them, they're probably well educated and well trained, and they probably have hundreds, if not thousands of clients and experiences, to say the least. Yet they have two things working against them. First of all, this is not their money.
Yes.
It's not their money. So they're going to make, in most cases, decisions for somebody else with no emotional attachment to that money, your money. The other thing is they've never been 60 years old. They're 35 or 30, whatever have you. And Arif, you said this, they were probably, running around the playground at school while this person whose money is being managed by this person, they were earning this money back when the advisor was in elementary school. And it doesn't make them bad at the end of the story. It just means that they have a different perspective with what is good or bad for you. So me personally, I'm risk averse in many regards, especially when it comes to money, because I know that you can't always go back and make it up. Now, you might be able to go back and make that money again, maybe not all of it, but you will never get that time back. And for a 60-year-old person or 50 or go back 15 years from whenever they said, okay, and they signed on the dotted line and they let somebody else drive their money, that's a scary place to be.
Our phone number is 888-99-RETIRE. That's 888-99-RETIRE, 888-888-99-RETIRE. We're going to continue. I want you to grab a pen and paper because here's a checklist for you to decide and to determine where you are on the financial race. Have you finished running your race and you just don't know it yet? Because for a lot of people, you take risks that you shouldn't be taking because you've accumulated the money already, even budgeting for inflation. So here's what you do on two columns, left and right. One is going to be assets on the left side. The other column is going to be income. So the income, you're going to decide on the top of the paper, I want you to write down the year in which you want to retire. And you could do your age. So if you are 60, you want to retire at 65, then you write down 65. If you're 50 and you want to retire at 62, you write down 62, whatever that age is. And then on the left side, you're going to write assets. So that is where they are today. Your retirement account, if you have rental property, the equity in your rental property, that's what you'll write down on the left side. Savings account, checking, etc. All the way on the left side, any kind of asset that you have, account. On the right side, you're going to write income. Now that's going to be income that's expected at that age of 62 or 52 or 55 or 65 or whatever that income is at that age. Whatever you know that income to be. So Social Security, which is estimated in the future, whatever it's going to be, you'll get your list, your charts that you receive in the mail. Today you go online. It'll tell you about what that number is. A pension, if any. Rental property, if any. Any kind of spousal Social Security or spousal pension. Maybe you have a military pension. Okay, so those are going to go on the right-hand side. Now, that's probably going to be in the future dollars, meaning if you get a Social Security statement today and you're 55 years old and it says at age 66 you can expect this certain number, that's in the future number. So, of course, there might be some inflation between now and then that will eat away that money. You know, in the last 10 years, I think it's been 1 or 2 times that Social Security recipients have received a pay raise. That's it. Under the 8 years of President Obama, they did it once, which is the election year. But then what they did is they raised Medicare. So they gave you, it was like $119, I think, and then they took it right back. So it was there and then it was gone. So that means Social Security recipients over the last 10 years have almost received nothing of a pay raise. So I understand there's going to be some inflation that eats it up. We're not talking about that right now. We're going to keep this really simple. If you think your house is going to be paid off by the time you hit that age, so you're 55, you're 50 now, and at age 62 or at 66, but if your home will be paid off, then in the middle of that column, you will write your house payment. All right, so let's go back. It looks like a T. We're going to have the age that you want to retire on the top. We're going to have your current assets on the left side, your future income at the age that you've written on the top, what that is expected to be. And if you have a house that is going to be paid off by the time you reach that age, you write that monthly payment in the middle. Not the taxes, just the principal and interest. And that's a good beginning, because now you can see, am I close? Wow, it's more than I thought. And when we come back, I'm going to give you a list of how you take your assets and decide whether or not it can equal the right side, the income. How do we turn that into income? Because after all, it doesn't matter how much money you have if you can't turn it into an income. You only spend income. You don't spend lump sums at the grocery store. Then when we come back, I'm going to give you I hate to give you horror stories, but I'm going to give you a horror story. I'm going to give you a real life example of somebody who just didn't listen. And it wasn't just to me. There were plenty of people in her life that tried to tell her and what the situation is today. Okay, when we come back. You're listening to me, Arif Halaby. That's Jeff Gerard on the Total Financial Hour. Give us a call at 888-99-RETIRE, 888-99-RETIRE. That's 888-99-RETIRE. We'll be back in just a minute. I'm Arif Halaby and Jeff Gerard on the Total Financial Hour on your hometown station, KHTS.
Visiting Angels is looking for quality caregivers and companions to join our growing team of compassionate, caring people providing care and assistance to Santa Clarita seniors. Our Angels help seniors with activities such as meal preparation, light housekeeping, personal care, and running errands. Visiting Angels takes pride in offering competitive wages, benefits, paid training, and flexible schedules. We have clients throughout Santa Clarita so you can work close to home. Details at visitingangels.com/Santa Clarita.
America's choice in home care. Sweet, salty, tastiest, bacon and pancakiest. Big yawns are okay, yummy syrups, yes way. Butter pecan, blueberry, old-fashioned strawberry. Never empty coffee pot. Mom says it hits the spot. Almonds are the fluffiest, Dad's hugs the scruffiest. Scrambled eggy, pepper shaky, orange juicy, wide awake, stuffed French toastiest. Waffles with the mustiest, buttermilky, smooth, silky, tastes great. Love on a plate.
IHOP, everything you love about breakfast.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org.
There's only one Santa Clarita plastic surgeon who is Yale trained and board certified, Dr. Justin Heller.
To be a board certified plastic surgeon like myself, what that truly entails is about 5 to 7 years of honed surgical training in reconstructive, all areas, as well as aesthetics, which means your facelifts, your breast augmentations, your body contouring, true training, and board certification. In fact, that's the only board certified area that can be achieved in this realm.
Dr. Justin Heller, warm, understanding, always available for guidance because he's local. HellerPlasticSurgery.com.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
Financial security will help you live the life you dream. Learn about financial power, the Total Financial Hour. Now higher.
Welcome back to the show, the Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halaby. That's Jeff Gerard on your hometown station, KHTS. Okay, we're talking about ways to decide if you finished running the race. How do you know financially if you're on track to finish the race without excessive risk? So here's a couple of ideas. We've talked about writing down your assets on the left side. That's basically your accounts. If you have rental property, it's the equity in your rental property. If it's the 401k or IRA or Roth accounts, that goes on the left-hand side as well, okay? So you write down the dollar figure today, approximately what it is worth. On the right side, it's future income, what you expect at the age in which you want to retire, which you're going to write that age on the top of the form. Now, there are occasions when somebody passes away along this journey, right? It happens. We just had a memorial service over the weekend for a friend of mine who passed away. He was in his early 50s. 25 plus rounds of chemo, something like that, nearly 30 rounds of chemo, radiation therapy, and on. And he fought. He didn't give up. Sometimes people give up on the first go for whatever reasons. That was not him. And he was certainly a very friendly guy, somebody you wanted to be around. He made you feel better about yourself when you were around him. But he didn't plan on dying. 5 years ago, 8 years ago, that wasn't his plan, right? He had a plan to retire at a certain age. They were going to do this. His kids were going to do that. So nobody knows. You don't know what your plans are when you're trying to save for your future. We just don't. So sometimes we have life insurance that fills the gap. And there's some really good plans out there, and there's some really crummy plans too. So make sure you are doing the right plans. You're saving the right money in your retirement accounts, but you also have a life insurance plan that's appropriate for you. Because here's an example. We have a couple that were in their 40s. They were clients for about 5 or 6 years. He suddenly got, I think it was pancreatic cancer, left 5 children, and a wife who did not have a skill set in the marketplace, in the workplace. She ran the home. She did a great job, but nobody was going to pay her extra money. So she had, by the time it was all done, about $700,000, $750,000 total. Now, she received Social Security when you have somebody who passes away and the kids are under the age of 18 or 19 or 20, depending on the rules. But when you have minor children, you can continue to receive Social Security. And if you're a widow, you can receive Social Security as well if you're not working. So those things matter and could help sustain their financial life. But meanwhile, the bucket of money, that asset, that $700,000, That was it. That was it for the rest of their life. Our goal was to make sure it lasted for the rest of her life, and they didn't start taking it out for the next 5 or 10 years. But when somebody who's never managed or never had to their name, never saved $1,000 or $10,000, and suddenly you give them $100,000, whether it's a lotto winnings, whether it is inheritance, tax refund, right? We've seen it. Mm-hmm. People blow through money, bonuses at work, doesn't matter. They blow through money not because they're bad, but they have no clue how it works. It's like giving a 16-year-old keys to a brand new Lamborghini. They will crash that. Maybe in a week or maybe in an hour, but they will crash that. The car is done because they have no clue. They have a driver's license that has their picture on it, right? The person who's incompetent with money, their name is on the check. It's on the savings account. So it's not as if they're not mature or legally allowed to have it. They do. Why do people that inherit money self-destruct? One is I think they're trying to cover up the bad feelings that come from it, right? Because you're saying, oh, I got this money because this person died, and it feels like it's dirty money, right? Sometimes you got to work through those things. That's what a counselor or a therapist is all about. But when you are in charge of the financial household for a family, and this particular woman made almost every mistake you can make, and she blew through $750,000 in just a couple of years. What part of feelings do you not get that I feel like this is going to be a successful business, so I'm going to pull out $50,000 for success? I don't care what you feel like. What's the business plan look like? What's the marketing plan? What's the strategic plan? You understand you have to do all three of those if you're going to have a legit business. Once you do that and you come up with the plan, you have to decide, is this the right thing for you? Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. But something is wrong in your financial life when you sit down and you didn't prepare and you blew through your money. How about another gentleman retired early at 55 years old? Pulled out you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
His entire retirement account to invest in a motorcycle repair shop. Not because that's a bad idea or a good idea. I don't know. It's just an idea. But he didn't know anything about it. He put in his life savings and lost it all. Now, you don't get to go back to work at 55 and make up 30 years worth of savings.
Correct.
So I think conservative approaches, I think strategic approaches where you have systematic income at a certain period of time, at least you have a floor. At least you have something that says, I'm going to have $3,000 a month. So when you've written down the guaranteed income, his Social Security, her Social Security, pension money, potential rental property income. Now remember, the reason I had the house payment, you're going to write the house payment. If the house is going to be paid off at the end, then you write the house payment in the middle because that's money you no longer have to earn. If it comes in the front door and goes out the back door, well, it's gone. But if it never goes out the back door because you've paid off the home, do you understand you don't have to earn it anymore? So you can withdraw less money from your retirement accounts. It will last a longer period of time, and you have a house that's paid off. If you choose to move or you want to refinance or do something else, that's another issue. Feel like you want to do a reverse mortgage, right? There's some great companies out there, but it has to be appropriate for you. If you need to do a reverse mortgage, talk to a financial professional, not the person selling you the reverse mortgage. Because generally speaking, where do they work? When the youngest spouse is at 70 years old. If you're at 70 years old as the youngest spouse, in other words, 70, 72, right? He's 74, she's 71. That kind of year, that's fine. If you're going to do a reverse mortgage in your early 60s, 62 you have to be at least. But if you're going to do one in your early 60s, in my opinion, it's kind of a waste. Now, if it's I'm homeless or I do a reverse mortgage, of course you do a reverse mortgage.
Right.
But if you think that's one of the go-to financial strategies, I don't know. I don't see it as an option.
Well, and they've actually changed the rules now in that respect where, if you're going to consider a reverse mortgage, you actually have to go through counseling through the FHA, the Federal Housing Authority. So they're making that more and more regulated and stringent as time goes on. But I have to tell you something very interesting. A relative of mine went through that as they were looking at a reverse mortgage, and even the people at the FHA were kind of steering them in a fashion where they could maybe get into some tax trouble. And I won't get into it on the radio, but I'll tell you, be careful who you hear your advice from, because just because it comes from, what you would think is this entity that's out to help you, there are still human beings that are, on the other end of that phone. So be careful with that. And to your point, Arif, people that are running this race and they're getting to a place where they say, I'm not going to save money in other places as aggressively or at all as I should, because I'm going to pay off my house because my house is the biggest asset I will ever have. That is one of the biggest lies. So make sure,
That's right.
Make sure that when you get to retirement that you didn't, you paid off all your debt, including your house mortgage, but you have nothing significant to speak of in savings. That's a very, very dangerous place to be. Partially because what are you banking on? You said earlier, if we can't take you're going to either have a lot of garage sales so you can buy groceries, or you're going to have to sell the house to get by if that's all you have. But you're banking on your house going up in value.
Remember, when you start off with the sale of a house, you have to discount it about 10%. That means, I can always sell my house for $600,000. You can, but you have to pay about $60,000 in fees.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever the price of your house goes up, you have to back off 10% of it, because you have real estate commissions and title fees and escrow fees.
Sure.
It's about 10%. So if you're going to buy a house and flip it, you have to make up that money before you can start earning any interest. Now, that is a lot of fees. If you had retirement accounts that charged you 10%, you'd say, my gosh, that's nutty. Who would ever do that?
You'd never do it, yeah.
If your savings account charged you a 10% fee when you were to take money out, you would never do it.
Right.
And even if you take money out of the house through a refinance, cash out refi, and you get to the place where you are a cash out refi and you've pulled all the money out and you're going to sell it, you still pay commissions on the entire price, not just the price of the equity.
Right.
Right? You have to pay commissions and fees and whatever it is on the entire figure. So be very careful if you're going to be that person. You don't want to get yourself into trouble financially where you are boxed in a corner where it's I either eat dinner or I have a place to live. My dad was very wise about this. He never refinanced the house to do any kind of business adventure. He was very cautious about it. He said, I always wanted a house where you kids could return if something went wrong. I always wanted a place. He has 3 daughters. I have 3 sisters, right? I always wanted a place where your sisters could come back home if something went wrong. Wasn't a fancy home. It wasn't a big palatial house. It was just a safety net. Because in his mind, taking any money from the government was dirty. I go, Dad, but you worked and you were laid off, and it doesn't matter. That is not what I came to this country for. I didn't come for free stuff. I came for an opportunity, for a chance, not a guarantee. You want a guarantee, you go to socialist world. That's why he was always against the minimum wage.
Yeah.
He said, do these kids not understand if they want a higher minimum wage? It's as if they're asking for indentured servitude, for a slavery. They're saying, give me this for a guarantee of that. Because here, do you understand, today you can go anywhere you want. You heard me at the beginning of the hour. There are more jobs than there are people to work. If you don't like your job, you can find one with a higher pay down the street. That's the power. And the job doesn't change. So as you grow and you get better and stronger, realize the job is a job. So if you're flipping hamburgers, if you're a receptionist, the job pays what it pays. You can be wonderful, you can be great, but you're not doing anything more than what the job pays. Maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. You have to be more valuable. You have to have a greater skill. You have to create more revenue for the company. You have to be more important, financially speaking, then you'll be paid more. If you just want the government to give you a pay raise because the politicians want you to vote for them, so do you understand that doesn't benefit anybody? Right? these are important components because you have to look at your family's financial life and realize if when you retire, you are going to stay in a place like California that continues to roll down the world where we think a socialist direction is the answer, then somebody has to pay for that. And if you're retired and you're the one with the money because the other kids, other people, other young folks have student loans or they just rent, right? How many people are not buying houses? They just rent. And they're not that dumb, right? When you look at this and these folks go out, they're kind of smart when you think, oh, I'm going to live here for a year and now I'm going to go over here for a year. And yes, they're paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month in rent, but they would be paying that for a house. And you say, well, at least they have something. No. Go back to math, folks.
Yeah.
Your first 10 years of a house mortgage is almost all interest. So you're renting anyway. So this baloney that you're throwing your money away when you rent, it's not true. If you have a 10-year mortgage, okay, now I'm with you. But most of you aren't going to have a 10-year mortgage. You're going to have a 30-year. So look at the way a house mortgage is calculated. Your first 10 years is, quote, a waste of money or a rental equivalent in most cases anyway. Oh, but I get a tax write-off. Right? Give me $4,000, I'll give you back $500.
Yeah.
Or how about you just buy rent for $3,000 and you still win by $500? You have to do the math to see if it works for you. Because for most of you, you have finished running the race. If you look at the math, when you go down and you say, hey, how much am I making in retirement? What are my assets? Then I want you to take a look. If you're going to retire in your 60s, let's say 66, 67 or earlier, then pulling out 4% of that asset number, here's a good example. If you have $1 million, you can pull out $40,000 a year and add that to the other column. So if between the $40,000 a year, the ability for you to have the guaranteed sources of income, and if that is enough for you to live on, then you're retired. But if it isn't enough, you go, if I have $260,000, then you have to do one of two things. You have to raise your savings or reduce your expenses. Sometimes people will raise their savings and bring their expenses right to the line of, I'm moving to Las Vegas or to Dallas or to Memphis, whatever it is.
Or another country.
Yes. There are entire towns in Mexico. We have a client that lives down there. Actually, we have two. But there are entire towns where they're Canadians, British, Australians, Americans, because their currencies are very strong, and that's how they're paid, and that's how they have their savings. But they can live in Mexico. And it's funny. They said the food servers and the waiters and the folks that are in the service industry there speak English better than the people here. And I said, oh, you guys must be working on your Spanish. They said, no, all of them want to learn English.
Yep.
And all of these young people are trained at a pretty darn high level.
Yep.
And you want to see what socialism does? Take a look at some of the recent CNBC shows that have gone down to Cuba. And what do you see? I was a former school professor. I was a former attorney. Well, what are you doing now? Well, now I drive a taxi. Now I'm a tour guide. I said, but I thought, they said, oh no, they pay the attorney the same thing that they pay the hotel worker. So I can be my own business, my own boss, because they're making some changes slowly, but they're making changes. And he says, I make more money than being a professional.
Wow.
That's what socialism does. It says no matter who you are, you should get about the same. All right. So why work harder? Jeff, I saw the other day. I know it's a video that's gone around because I've heard the concept before. But it was trying to explain to high school students what socialism is. And they said, well, think of it like this. You have an A student who works really hard, doesn't party on the weekend, goes to study. Have you seen this? Goes to study, works their fanny off, right? And you have the C student who parties all weekend, gets drunk, stoned, whatever they do, but they don't study. The A student comes into the final, takes the test, gets an A. Mm-hmm. The other student comes in and gets a fail. But we don't want anybody to feel bad. So we took the fail and they moved it up to a C, and they took the A and they moved it down to a C. So they're equal. Now the A student goes, wait a second, I worked really hard. I didn't go hang out. I didn't get drunk and party. So the next test comes around. The fail student goes, hey man, I didn't do anything last time and I got a C. I'm going to do the same thing this time.
Imagine that.
So he does nothing in the world of studying.
Yeah.
And the A student doesn't study that hard because last time it didn't pay off. And they only partied half day on a Saturday. So they actually got a B. So now the fail student went up to a D, and the B student came down to a C or a D. And then eventually, the A student says, I'm not going to work that hard at all, and gets a C. And the productivity of society, of those that are willing to work hard, be smart, that have a talent, starts to drop. The challenge for you is we do not know in this moment of change whether or not this experiment California is trying is going to sweep through the country, or if it's going to rise and fall and die right here in California. I met with a lady yesterday, and she said, the reason California has debt and is charging all these taxes is because Pete Wilson deregulated the electric industry and Enron took all of the money. I'm like, what? I go, how much debt was Enron? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It was about $1 billion. A lot of money.
Yeah.
Right. By the time it was all done, because they
Sure.
got some of the money back. How much debt does California have? $900 billion.
It's a drop in the bucket.
So I get it. You can blame Pete Wilson because it's more convenient to give credit to your guy and to blame their guy. Both sides do it. Right. President Obama blamed Bush for the first couple of years, and President Trump is blaming Obama for the first couple of years. Right. So everybody wants to do that. It's the way it goes. But your retirement account better be personal because nobody else is going to care for it. Not like you. We'll take a break. We'll come right back. We're going to continue. I'm going to give you a little bit of a tip and trick, I think, that can help you when you decide where you're going to retire. Like some of the things to count for, because there are 3 main areas to look at when we come back. On your place for news, talk, and information, this is the Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halaby. That's Jeff Gerard. Give us a call at 888-99-RETIRE. That's 888-997-3847. 888-997-3847. We'll be right back.
And now a cooking tip from Keith Mowry from Bob's Country Meats. For a change of pace, think about cooking a leg of lamb.
Leg of lamb, great, boneless. Marinate them in a garlic marinade. Let those roast in the oven for about 25 minutes per pound at 350 degrees.
Lamb, chicken, tri-tip, pork chops, turkey, steaks, even exotic game like buffalo and ostrich. For the tastiest lamb in town, visit Bob's Country Meats on Soledad in Canyon Country.
City of Hope is a world leader in cancer research and treatment. And there's a City of Hope community practice location right here in Santa Clarita, eliminating a major barrier in the fight against cancer. Distance to quality care. Santa Clarita benefits from City of Hope's compassionate care and renowned clinical expertise. Find out more at cityofhope.org/Santa Clarita or call 661-799-1999.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
Santa Clarita Water has a long history of safe, reliable water service. SCV Water is dedicated to increasing efficiencies, protecting our vital resources, and improving their customers' experiences. That's you. Meet them at their new home on the web at yourscvwater.com. There you can find the latest news, rebates, and much more. That's yourscvwater.com. They can't wait to serve you.
Remember when you and your sweetheart would go ice skating, gliding across the ice hand in hand? Well, relive those magical moments at Ice Station Valencia during any of our daily public sessions. The Ice Station Coffee Club, our Monday to Friday noontime skate for adults only, is a great place to socialize while getting in healthy ice skating exercise. For beginners, there's a free skating lesson every Tuesday and Thursday. Ice Station, across the street from Valencia High. Call 775-8686 or check icestation.net for ice skating fun.
Green Thumb International, your lawn and garden professionals, have the widest variety of shrubs, flowering plants, and garden supplies in the Santa Clarita Valley. Use correct watering techniques. Water early in the day, especially as the weather warms, to reduce evaporation loss. Water less often for longer lengths of time to encourage deep root growth. On Newhall Avenue in Old Town Newhall near Sierra Highway. Green Thumb puts the green in your thumb.
Hey, Kyle, what are you doing Saturday, June 30th?
Not sure.
Nowhere bound, huh?
What?
Come on, Bubba Hyde. Get it together. You're a beautiful mess.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Diamond Rio songs. You're unbelievable.
Why, thank you, Kyle. I just want to let our listeners know that we'll be hosting the Big Diamond Rio Show with special guest Savannah Burrows at the Pack at COC.
Imagine that.
Look at you getting it now.
One more day.
No, dude, it's June 30th.
Be my wingman.
Oh, now you're quoting Savannah Burrows songs.
Yep.
Sweet.
Join Tori and me when we host Diamond Rio with special guest SCV's own Savannah Burrows. Saturday, June 30th, 7 p.m. at COC's Pack.
Tickets are on sale now. Go to canyonspack.com
or hometownstation.com.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
Financial security will help you live the life you dream. Learn about financial power, the total financial hour. Now higher income strategy. Learn from Arif Halaby.
Hey, welcome back to the show. The Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halaby. That's Jeff Gerard, your family's finances. Talking about, look, in retirement and wealth, it's interesting. You know, part of the conversation has to be about defining the terms. You know, when I say the word of retirement to maybe your parents or your grandparents, it used to be, well, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to sit in a rocking chair on the porch. I'm going to play canasta. I'm going to golf, you know, in the little 9-hole golf course. I'm going to, you know, it takes 110 times, but I'll finish 9 holes. It's all about trying to figure out how to just exist, right? Enjoy life. Today, retirement's different. It's, I'm going to start a second career. I'm going to go and work overseas. I'm going to teach English. If you're an educator, if you have a degree in English or just a passion to teach, you understand you can go and teach overseas. They pay you in local currency and in the dollars there. So it's not a huge living, but they'll pay for you to live in China. They'll pay for you to live in Vietnam. They'll pay for you to live in Saudi Arabia or in places around the world that are exotic and interesting. And you can commit to a year or 2 years. It isn't the rest of your life. So retirement might be switching from one career to another. And a lot of you untire. That means you started retirement and you're like, uh-oh, I don't have money or a purpose. So I need to go back to work.
Yeah, and one of those two things are going to drive you to go back to work, whether you didn't have enough money or you got bored. I mean, we've seen it both ways. You know, some professions have more of a propensity to go back to work or just say, I'm going to retire, because that's the word they're calling it. But what I'm really doing is just leaving this job to go do something that I really wanted to do because I've been doing something that paid well enough for the last 20 or 25 or 30 years. Now that I have enough money, I'm going to go do what I really want to do. And that's, you know, a whole range of things. So that's kind of an exciting part, I think, for some people, especially the ones that started a career early and they get out relatively early in their, 50s or so. I think that's kind of a nice thing for them.
And many of you thought that the career was the one you wanted to do because you were trying to impress your dad or your mom, or that's what you thought you were supposed to do, or you just happened to be good at it. And then, wow, son of a gun, I receive a pension or I retire from there. That's all wonderful. but it might not have been the passion or the thing that you wanted to do. So a lot of you are moving to other states. You're moving to other locales. There are 3 things to keep in mind when you are moving to another state. You've heard me mention when I started in this business 22 years ago. Actually, this next week will be 22 years. 22 years ago when I started in this business, 1 out of 10 of my clients would retire outside of California. And that was the way it was for a decade. About 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, right? The last few years, the last 4, 5, 6 years, it's been 1 out of 3. This, up to January of this year, 2018, it's now been about 1 out of 2. That means half of the people with money, now they may not have enough to have 2 houses, so they have to sell their house. They get to have 1, so they sell. Now they might still come back and stay with their daughter in the spare bedroom, or travel with their motorhome and hook up next to their son's house or something like that. So they'll return. But 1 out of 2 are leaving California when they retire. That's a huge number, you guys. So what do you do when it comes to building your retirement plan so that you're not somebody who is forced to leave? You can leave if you want, and that's fine. There's lots of good reasons to leave. But if you're going to, don't jump from the frying pan into the fire. Here are 3 things that states have. They either have, if they have no income tax, very low income tax, or none, they may have higher property tax. That's how they pay for the schools and the state. So they'll have layers of property tax, meaning the state will have a foundation of a property tax, let's say 0.7%, and then the county or the city, and then the school and the water bond. And so you might end up with 2.5% or 3%. So you have to look at, am I making money in income? If I am earning a lot of income, then by reducing my income tax or eliminating it, it might make sense to live in a place where I am doing a trade-off for property tax. Meaning you might live in a house that's a $250,000 house. That's great. Property tax is pretty low. You're okay.
Right, and even in your example where you might see the property taxes double or even triple in another state, think about the home value, right? Because that's going to drive that price as well.
Yeah, you might go from 1.5% here in California to 2.5%. But instead of having a $500,000 house or an $800,000 house, in another state you have one for $195 or $200.
That's right.
So your property tax dollar might be the same or a little bit lower, but you're saving 100% of the income tax. The second is sales tax. Here's a good example. The battle between Washington State and Oregon. Washington has 0 income tax. Oregon has 0 sales tax. So what people do is they live in Washington and they go across the border to buy washers and dryers and things that cost more in dollars so that they are not paying any sales tax. Because Washington State sales tax is high, comparatively speaking.
Sure.
It's the same as California. You understand California has sales tax, income tax, and my last one is that income tax that we talked about. In California, we have all 3 of those. Some states have higher income tax and lower sales tax. Do your research. Give us a call at 888-99-RETIRE. That's 888-99-RETIRE if you have any questions. I'm Arif Halby. That's Jeff Gerard on the Total Financial Hour.
KHTS AM 1220 and 98.1 FM Santa Clarita.